This is it, the game many of us have been waiting for since 1994. A proper follow-up to classic Sonic the Hedgehog games that strive to expand and improve upon everything that made the originals great. But how did a group of fans that never lost hope in the series manage to create one of the best Sonic games ever made? And how does it stack up against the original games anyways? You might also be wondering how Sonic Mania looks and runs on each of the 3 current consoles. Worried about performance issues on the Switch? Stay tuned. We're going to explore all that and more on this crossover between Digital Foundry and DF Retro. This is Sonic Mania. The origins of Sonic Mania harken back more than a decade ago when Christian Whitehead began a journey to recreate the gameplay mechanics of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 using original code. This ultimately resulted in the release of Retro Sonic, a demo of sorts built using a brand new codebase, and what you're looking at now is Retro Sonic running on the Sega Dreamcast. It was incomplete and buggy, but it offered a glimpse of what was to come. Christian then joined forces with others over time and continued to work on enhanced Sonic projects such as Sonic XG, before eventually pouring efforts into recreating Sonic CD. This caught the eye of Sega, which sent Christian and crew down a path of bringing classic Sonic games to mobile and consoles alike. This success no doubt contributed to the birth of a new project, Sonic Mania. Christian joined forces with Pagoda West Games, headcanon, and composer T. Lopes to build this brand new Sonic game for Sega. These guys know Sonic, and have managed to perfectly capture what it is that makes the original games so special. For starters, the physics and controls are spot on. This is something that no other Sonic game beyond 1994 has managed to get right, but Sonic Mania nails it. Sonic accelerates properly down slopes, responds exactly as you would expect, and just feels great to control. The level design manages to introduce unique hooks for each stage, much like the original games, without bogging down the experience with unwanted mechanics that we've often seen in Sonic Team's other games. The visual design here is perfect. The game is powered by the Retro engine, and takes things further than your typical indie pixel art game by embracing techniques that were impossible on the original Mega Drive hardware. In that sense, Sonic Mania truly feels like a lost Sega Saturn game. For one thing, it makes full use of object scaling and rotation. Bosses leap into the screen, Sonic smoothly rotates on slopes, and rings go flying in every direction. It's a big step up from the Mega Drive originals. Just the way Sonic smoothly rotates when going through loops or down slopes makes a big difference here. Simple polygon graphics are also used throughout. The 3D bonus stages are gorgeous and super smooth. These stages clearly take inspiration from Sonic CD, but on the original hardware, these stages run at a very low frame rate. Sonic Mania pushes things up to a full 60 frames per second and it looks great. There's also real 3D objects placed within the environment and backgrounds themselves, bringing extra depth to each scene. Speaking of backgrounds, the development team here leans hard into slick, line-scrolling effects that were extremely common in the Mega Drive games. This was originally achieved by using scanline interrupts to scroll individual background lines at variable intervals. As impressive as this looks though, the Mega Drive was ultimately limited to just 2 background planes, a window plane, and a sprite plane. This limited number meant that you could not have multiple layered background planes intersecting with one another. You can see that here. Notice how the 2 layers of mountains never intersect with one another. But by using interrupts, you can scroll them independently. Sonic Mania, though, doesn't adhere to those rules and instead features many overlapping background layers in addition to proper line scrolling. This means a level of background complexity we've not yet seen in a 2D Sonic game. Of course, the comparable sections of each stage do line up well with the Mega Drive originals, as evident here. There is extra detail in Green Hill Zone here, for instance, along with improved water animation, but it is ultimately rather similar. As you descend underground though, there is more complex background work that simply wouldn't have been possible to pull off on Sega's 16-bit machine. Sonic Mania also has access to a much broader color palette than the Mega Drive, enabling smooth gradients and shading throughout. On top of this, sprite work is dramatically more complex with many more frames of animation, and without hard limits on the sprites per line, the game can throw around a huge number of these objects without sacrificing performance. There's even real transparency in use here. Look at the clouds in this area. Simply beautiful. Thinking of this stage, the juddery motion visible while climbing on Mega Drive here is replaced with nice, smooth animation in Sonic Mania. This particular stage also showcases how the backgrounds can evolve with a nice 3-dimensional rounded appearance added to the parallax background in comparison to the original game. Oh, and of course, those spherical bonus stages make a return and offer improved visuals as well, with smoother rotation of the ball itself and improved color gradients in the distance. The visual design on display here truly is fascinating. It does share many elements with the original 16-bit games, but it pushes things out in so many different directions, introducing effects that would have been impossible at the time, bringing it more in line with the Sega Saturn game, and even beyond. This feels like the logical next step for 2D Sonic. So by all accounts, this is a gorgeous game, but how does it stack up across platforms, and which display options are available? Well, to start with, the game includes 4 distinct visual modes. A smooth mode, which applies a blur to pixel edges and is the default, 2 excellent CRT shaders with Sharp, using a Sony PVM as reference, and Soft, using a Commodore 1084 as reference, and a razor sharp mode, simply referred to as None. The CRT shaders look fantastic here and do a great job of approximating the look of a phosphor-based display. This isn't just a case of slapping scan lines onto the image. But the Pixel Perfect mode is my favorite here, and it also highlights the first console advantage. Sonic Mania supports the PlayStation 4 Pro. Wait, what? How does a 2D game like this benefit from the Pro? Well, simple. It outputs at a native 4K, enabling razor-sharp pixels that perfectly line up with the pixel grid on a 4K TV. No blurring, no upscaling, no filtering. It looks absolutely perfect. Looking at all 3 versions then in terms of image quality and performance, PS4 Pro is clearly the best of the bunch. But the others are no slouch either. Those playing on PS4, Xbox One, or the Switch will see a maximum resolution of 1080p, which will also provide immaculate scaling on a 1080p TV. The Xbox One S can at least upscale to 4K, though it introduces a slight blur. Hopefully the game is updated to support Xbox One X later this year to allow pixel perfect 4K output on that console as well. Aside from these minor differences though, all versions look and play very much the same, but there is one small caveat to bring up for the Switch version. This version was developed in tandem with Tantalus, the studio responsible for the remaster of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on Wii U, and it's mostly good, but when you enter a 3D bonus stage, performance doesn't quite hold solid. The drops here occur in both handheld and docked mode as well. It doesn't greatly detract from the experience, mind you, but it is worth noting, I think, for those that were curious. The rest of the game, however, operates at a perfect 60 frames per second. Some users have also reported that the power and home buttons aren't working when playing in portable mode. During our own tests, this issue never cropped up, but it is worth noting as some folks are clearly impacted by it. There are also reports of music cutting out mid-game on all platforms, and again, after playing through most of the game on 3 separate consoles, this is not something we encountered, but clearly the issue is out there. Fortunately, the development team is aware of these problems and working on solutions. As for performance on Xbox One and PS4, well, you get a perfectly locked 60 frames per second. Slowdown simply isn't an issue here. The games all run perfectly. I suppose it really shouldn't come as a big surprise, of course, but it's great news and a genuine improvement over certain 16-bit installments. Sure, Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles were all generally very smooth thanks to Yuji Naka's ninja coding skills, but Sonic CD really struggled on original hardware with significant slowdown. It's also worth noting that there are basically no loading times here. Each stage begins instantaneously, just as you would hope, giving it that fully seamless feel. File size is also reasonable. It's under 300 megabytes on all platforms and under 200 on PS4 and Switch. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the soundtrack. Music is critical to a Sonic game, and T. Lopes pushes beyond expectations. Audio signature is simply perfect. This is an area where I feel other classic revivals often fall short. All those new Super Mario Bros. Games from Nintendo featured boring, uninteresting wah-wah tunes. Yoshi's New Island is nausea-inducing. And those Crash remasters? Not great. But Sonic Mania has a sound that is so captivating that it will bring a smile to your face. And that's the thing here. This is a game that embodies pure joy to the highest degree. Every aspect of it is perfect, and it's the kind of game that can genuinely brighten your day. Whether you're a Sonic fan from back in the day, or have only taken to platform games in recent years, you have to check it out. I mean, how many other big publishers would allow fans to work together to build an official sequel to a popular franchise? Sega truly does what Nintendo don't. But that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us over on Twitter. And until next time, this is John signing off.